morning. You are listening to Troutline on WVLP-LP 98.3 FM. I am your host, Tracy Trout. Troutline is underwritten by Uptown Cafe. Uptown Cafe is an eco-responsible specialty coffee, tea, and soda bar with a dynamic food menu set in a fusion of modern and classic design. Uptown is located at 1400 East Lincoln Way in Valparaiso, Indiana. WVLP is happy to announce that Will Kaufman will present a celebration of the life and songs of Woody Guthrie at Front Porch Music on Friday, August 5th at 8 p.m. Author, performer, and professor of American literature at University of Central Lancashire in England, Will Kaufman will tell the story of Guthrie's life and radical politics with narrative and song. Known as the Dust Bowl Troubadour, Guthrie's best-known song is This Land Is Your Land, but he is the author of dozens of contemporary folk songs. The concert is one night only on Friday, August 5th at 8 p.m. Call Front Porch Music at 464-4700 for reservations. My guest today is Kathy Sipple, who is a wonderful member of our community and also runs a company called My Social Media Coach. And disorganized this morning. Sorry, Kathy.
You're fine.
Kathy has a social media trainer and strategist. She also works out in the community, just started 219 Green Connect. Mm-hmm. And I think I would say that Kathy is one of those people who is really good at bringing people and community and ideas together. So welcome, Kathy. I'm very excited to be here. It's great to see you and have you here.
I'm very excited to be here as well. We met a couple of years back, and our paths intertwine, at least on Facebook.
Absolutely.
A little bit more than in person, unfortunately, but I was very pleased to have this opportunity. So
yeah, I'm really glad you're going to be here. So Kathy and I are going to talk a little bit about social media. I'm going to put her through her paces here and have her briefly run through, if we can be brief about social media, sort of what these things are, talk a little bit about your company and how people can reach you and be helped by you. And then we're sort of going to go off and talk about this great topic that Kathy came up with about relationship economics and those kinds of things. So let's start with the basic things of Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, the three big pieces, and anything you want to throw in about Google+, selfish on my part, because I'd like to know.
Yeah, well, you know what, and I think that's my strongest, the strongest thing that I bring to my role as a social media trainer and strategist is that I want to know too. That's the thing that drives me. Sometimes I hear people label themselves as social media guru or expert, and I really kind of shrink at that. Because if I were to just walk away from social media for a month, 6 months, a year, God forbid, I would be nowhere close to being an expert.
Right.
So it's always changing, and honestly, that's one of the main things that I love about it. I just think it's fascinating, and there's truly always something to look at. And I think the big three are still LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, and they are all in fact social media platforms or communities, tools. You hear all different kinds of things, the way that they're described. And technically, they work more or less the same way. You create a profile, you connect with people, you share posts and interactions and that kind of thing. But the difference is really the intention that each of those communities are formed around. Facebook, I have likened to a backyard barbecue.
I really like that analogy.
Okay.
That's why I wanted to talk about this, because I love the way you sort of break this out, because it's a really good way to explain it.
I came up with it. I'm going with that. It seems to kind of work for people. Yeah. Well, it's not actually, but I'll say that it is. But, you consider if you were invited to your neighbor's backyard barbecue. Maybe you're in the job search mode, or, you're looking for a mate, or whatever you might be looking for. Everybody is coming to that party with their own set of, initiatives, goals, whatever, reasons, agenda, that maybe they get out and interact socially. However, if you come into the backyard barbecue, or let's say you're in a sales position and you come to this backyard barbecue with a handful of business cards and start passing them out and trying to do business, you might not get invited back to that next barbecue.
Highly likely.
Unless you're very engaging and can really, sell in a very social manner. In any case, I think most people realize that the party is thrown to chit-chat, catch up on news, be friendly, and that's the primary purpose. And that's the same like Facebook. Really, that's why people are there, is to be friendly and to engage with one another, share photos, share vacation stories, share memories, share favorite songs. However, people work, and they are still interested in the professional you if you're a friend first. So there is a way to incorporate business into Facebook, and that's a very exciting opportunity for businesses. LinkedIn, on the other hand, is all about business. It's kind of like a 24/7 Chamber of Commerce meeting or a 24/7 trade show.
It really is.
It is.
And I get some good stuff off there.
You really do.
And I want to say to everybody who's listening, I am not being glib about that. I have in the little blurbs that people, when you look at, it's almost like a feed.
Right, exactly.
I have been alerted about books, events, articles, strategies, things I'd never thought of before. I think it's amazing, actually.
The thing that LinkedIn does better than Facebook, I believe, is that you can actually search for a certain term. They've got archived conversations in the answer section or in the group discussion areas so that you can just look for keywords or phrases that you are interested in. So if you're thinking about, upgrading your software, or you need to hire a vendor to perhaps design a new logo, whatever it might be, you can ask the oracle that is LinkedIn. Instead of just Googling, where it's an impersonal result that's fed back to you, LinkedIn actually gives you results within your known network, which is an added value. And then Twitter, which I think is kind of the redheaded stepchild right now.
I think it kind of is.
It still kind of is. I think it's, gaining a little bit more recognition when you listen to White House press conferences and they say, we have a tweet from, whoever, and then they answer it.
Right.
It's hard not to acknowledge it as a force in social media. So, I listen to a lot of NPR. I hear people taking tweets and that kind of thing, and that's encouraging. But if we've got the backyard barbecue as Facebook and the 24/7 Chamber of Commerce meeting that's LinkedIn, I'd say Twitter is like a cocktail party for people with ADD.
That's great because it is, because it's so short and it's bursts. It's like bursts of thought.
And it's nothing against people that might have ADD. I think I have it a little bit more now that I've been on Twitter and these other things. But LinkedIn, your network really means something. When you link to somebody, presumably it means that you might endorse that person in a business setting. Or if you're on Facebook, presumably you've got some sort of known connection with this person or you're willing to explore it. Twitter, you're much freer to just listen in and follow anybody, be followed by anybody. You're not giving away a tremendous amount of information. So, you'd have to be trying pretty hard to give people a lot of information on Twitter. And it's great, though, because it's a real-time text search. And, again, you can search for any kind of topic that you might be interested in and, find experts, be labeled as an expert, and then take it to that next level, whether that would be making that person a Facebook friend or, here's a newsflash, all of the networking isn't supposed to stay online.
Really?
Really, Tracy? Yeah. I sometimes hear people, just bragging about the number of Facebook friends they have or the number of, Twitter followers.
Right.
But, I see these people sometimes cooped up. They're kind of pasty. They haven't seen the sun in a long time. And I'm like, hey.
They don't know we have a lake here.
Yeah, you can get out. And maybe you could go for a walk with that, Facebook friend or that Twitter friend or have a cup of coffee.
Have you seen the commercial, the Honda commercial, where it's two college-age, sort of post-college-age kids, and the one girl is sitting at her computer, and she said, I don't know what's wrong with my parents. I finally got on them on Facebook, and they have 16 friends, and she's talking, and they cut to the parents are like getting these bikes off their cars, and they're, out walking with riding these trails, and she's going, and I have 672 friends on Facebook. Now this is life.
Yeah.
And the parents are out, and the next one is the kid's talking about how he can't get his parents to do anything, and he's like trying to say goodnight to him, and his parents are out at some concert with their friends.
Right.
And I just, it's sort of a spoof, and it's sort of spoofing this whole idea that,
Well, and I'm going to kind of answer your question with an interesting way, but I do not have TV in my home. We never got a digital converter, so we do spend more time at the beach than like watching TV. I get Netflix, so I do watch Netflix.
Right.
It's not like I don't have a physical TV, but I don't have a TV that gives me network channels.
Okay, so that's why
I didn't see the commercial,
which is okay.
But I like it.
But I just thought it was interesting because it's sort of spoofing sort of both sides, that we do think that kids are really connected, and that sort of middle age, and when your kids are growing up and you're sort of hitting that stride, that you really are sitting at home. And I think there are way more people that are out being active, and it was just an interesting way to sort of portray.
There are a lot of people that are 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond that are certainly very adept at connecting online. And in fact, I haven't checked this recently, but the last time I checked, the fastest growing segment on Facebook was actually women over 55. So that doesn't mean they're the biggest segment, but they were the fastest growing segment.
Right.
And I think there are probably a lot of reasons for that. I mean, families are more transitory these days. They're a little bit more spread out. So you've got grandma living in Florida, and the kids live, up here in the Chicagoland area.
Right.
They get to see their, grandkids grow up. They can't be there every day, but hey, they can Skype. They can look at the pictures.
Absolutely.
All these different things. So I think that they've got different reasons for it. But Tracy, you and I were talking a little bit before we began here today, and saying that it's interesting. We hear some people, instead of feeling more connected because of social media, they actually, we don't totally understand it because it's not our reality.
No.
But there are some people that seem a little what would you say, hesitant,
a little afraid of it, almost.
Afraid of it.
They're not exactly sure what it will mean or how they will use it, or that somebody might know too much, that there's no way to, in face-to-face contact, you can sort of shield how much you share.
Right.
And so when you're out there, that you're going to be sharing too much, or somebody's suddenly going to grab your birth date and run off with your credit card.
Right. Well, so I would like to address that, maybe just lay down some safety tips or some best practices for guarding your information. But also, I think to bring it back to what are you doing with your social network, both in person and online, that can help facilitate just better connections and better life, really. So social media is the way that I do it, but I like to think of myself as a relationship consultant.
Right.
Social media is one big area, obviously, that changes frequently, and one of the main ways that I show clients how to leverage that. But, a lot of this stuff comes down to whatever you needed to know you learned in kindergarten or something. It's like play nicely with others, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, all of this. But just a couple words about privacy. I've heard of people saying, well, I don't want to be on Facebook because I don't want pictures of me out there. I'll tell you what, if you have friends that have cameras and they're posting pictures, you're probably on there whether you're aware of it or not.
Absolutely.
But
we've all seen pictures on Facebook where people are tagged, and then you're like, okay, who's the unnamed person?
Or they're named but not tagged.
Right.
Like tagged, if you're not on Facebook, we don't want to leave you out here. What tagged means is that you basically list somebody's name, but it's got a live hyperlink that you can click on that will go to that person's profile, and you can get some further background information. Typically, you can only tag somebody that you are connected friends with. That's right. But in any case, I think a lot of times that's like the ostrich with its head in the sand, saying that if I don't know about it and I don't see it, I can't be affected, right? So, good news, bad news, that's not exactly true. But the good news is you can participate, and with some common sense privacy rules, I think you can really, protect yourself, have fun, and make it what it needs to be for you. One thing that I do personally is I don't put my birth year on my birthday. I just had a birthday last month, and I loved getting, I think I got 97 birthday wishes.
Isn't that the most awesome thing, though? When you sign on at your birthday, and you've got all these people just like, hey, happy birthday, have a great day, whatever.
It was insane.
Great
it was
feeling.
insane. I mean, it was fun.
Right.
I mean, I'd never have gotten 97 birthday cards in a year, nor would I really want them. Right. You know, I'd be like at the shredder having to recycle or something.
Yeah, exactly.
But
it's much more environmentally sound.
It was incredible. I mean, my husband and I went out for a walk at the dunes that day, you know, and I thought, well, you know, I've got a whole bunch this morning. That's going to be about it. No.
Rolling in.
It kept coming all day. It was just incredible. So anyway, you know, that was a little boost. That's a one-day-a-year thing. But I would say don't put the year on it just because that does help an identity theft person maybe hone in on, hey, here's Tracy Child, and here's her home address, and here's, you know, her birth. I mean, you certainly, obviously, you're going to make
that off right now, Kathy.
All righty. You know, and I'll tell you, if you join some groups that are, for instance, I'll give away my age here, the Northville High School, you know, alumni class of 1984, well, some math whiz can probably make quick work of that.
I just had my 30-year class reunion. Right. So it was the MHS class of 1981. Right. So unless I was a walking genius, I'm pretty sure they can figure that out.
Exactly. So there are definitely ways people can connect the dots, but if you don't put that information right in your profile, it makes it a little bit harder. The other thing is, you know, Facebook changed up their privacy settings, and that was unfortunate that they chose to make the default settings much more lax, which they did take quite a bit of heat for. They've tightened that up, and hopefully they'll move forward with that lesson. Right. But meanwhile, you do have complete control over how much information you would like for non-friends to be able to see, or even friends to see. Right. You can have varying amounts of information available to different people within your network. That's all available within the account settings tab on Facebook. So if you're not aware of that, go check that out. You know, some people like to post pictures of their kids, and I would say, you know, that might be an area where you want to put them in one album and keep those privacy settings.
Right, so that only family can see them. Right. You know, and I did think about that. You know, my kids are older, so they have their own Facebook pages. And really, to be honest with you, the reason I got on Facebook was to police that. So, that police that is too strong. You know, I want my kids to be out there and connected to the world, and I think that this is a very important tool for them. And I wanted them to be able to participate in it, but my husband and I both still felt that we needed to have some way to see sort of what was going on and et cetera. And it's been wonderful for them. I mean, you know, I actually am quite delighted sometimes to watch sort of what happens
what they
with
come
all
up
these
with
kids and how they police each other.
I am too, and I have to say I don't have kids, but I've got a number of nieces and nephews that are, you know, varying ages from.
And I can't wait for that to happen. Mine are all still too young, and I am waiting for them to get onto Facebook so I can be way cool Aunt Tracy, because I'm old, Kathy, and I'm still on Facebook.
Hey, we just said our ages basically. We're only 3 years apart, so you can't be old because that
by
means
the time they're getting to Facebook, then, you know, so it's great though.
But it's, you know, it's a lot of fun. So I mean, the 5-year-old obviously is not on there, but, you know, I think they range in age up to about 27. And, you know, I love sometimes, I don't love having insomnia. But when I do have insomnia, I am sometimes up and checking out Facebook, and I'll get a little...
Yes, because I've seen you on there at the same time I've been on there, and I thought, not sleeping either.
We'll have to chat.
Yes.
But, you know, maybe I'll get a 2:30 a.m. little instant message pop up from my nephew who's like 24, I think, and he doesn't pick up the phone and call me. He doesn't even email me, but that's enough that he'll just say, hey, Aunt Kathy, what are you doing? So I think you can get from your network whatever it is you need it to be. So we've talked largely about Facebook so far, and again, that is kind of the friend network. You can get a lot of information from it. I love particularly the event aspect of Facebook. My husband just commented to me last year, he said, doesn't it seem like we're doing way more interesting things on the weekend?
Absolutely.
And just in life. And I said, yeah. And you know what? I think it's because of Facebook.
Right, because people send you all these lovely events.
Right.
And there is no like, I have to do this.
Right.
It's just great.
It's
and
just
I think,
possibilities.
Wow, this is awesome.
Right.
This could be something we could do.
Right, because, you know, or even if we don't do it together. I mean, a couple months back, we had planned a date night for Friday night, and was looking forward to it. He didn't feel well. Right. So instead of getting all disappointed or staying home, I went to Facebook, checked at the events that I had thought I wouldn't go to, and ended up having a fine time. Right. You know, at a girls' night out kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And it was fantastic. But I think it just allows somebody who is looking for it the opportunity for all kinds of great things to happen. And, you know, it's not the same for any one person. A lot of it has to do with what you bring into it. And it kind of brings me to the second part of, it's really the guts of what I wanted to talk about today, and that's relationship economics. It's kind of the art and science of relationships. And
before you start that, let me take 1 minute to remind you that you are listening to Troutline on WVLP LP 98.3 FM, Valparaiso, Indiana. My name is Tracy Trout, and I'm your host today, and our guest is Kathy Sipple. So let's go right into relationship economics, because I thought this is a fabulous way to sort of integrate the social media, but at the same time really talk about what are the economics of our relationships and how are we leveraging that.
Exactly.
Or not.
Yes,
the case may be.
I think there is an art and a science, and depending on, you know, that year that you were born, you know, maybe it's pre-Facebook or it's post-internet, you know, it doesn't really matter, but I think all of us just bring to this life certain expectations, certain tools, and certain, you know, mores that are appropriate maybe within our generation. But social media kind of equalizes that. Everybody's got the same amount of real estate. We've all got that same profile space, and what do you do with it? So I liked that topic, relationship economics, the art and science of relationships, because in fact I did major in economics in college.
Interesting.
Not really sure why.
Well,
started out in engineering, knew that was not going to go, and just wanted to get into something that sounded marketable, and I don't know. I don't think that's exactly me, but it's always kind of been there. I wonder about the marketplace. How do things, what is the supply and the demand and all that?
Absolutely. I think it's very applicable.
Yeah, I'm really more interested in the social aspect of it, but I guess economics is a social science. And I've also been a Chamber of Commerce membership director, so, you know, I think this kind of blends both of those things. But what I was looking into is 10 reasons maybe why most networking doesn't work. And that might be coming about it from a negative, but when I talk to people and they just seem a little frustrated by their efforts, whether it's face-to-face networking or online networking with social media, I've distilled it down to these 10 different reasons. There probably are more, but these are little buckets that are catch-all. And I think that the reason that people get frustrated with networking is that they just believe that it doesn't work or it doesn't produce results. And at the same time, I think most people would say their most important asset in their life is their portfolio of their relationships.
Absolutely.
You know, because relationships transcend time, geography, function, you know, all of these things. I have friends on Facebook that I knew since my first memory. You know, my next door neighbor when I was 2 years old, I you know, she was my babysitter, and you know, that means something to me. I've got somebody on there that I've met with in the last week. So obviously all the depth, you know, the depths of those relationships are at varying, you know, timelines. But the one reason I think networking doesn't work is because just the name. It sounds like work. It's got that name work in it.
Absolutely.
So I see a lot of people showing up at networking events, and it's like a have to. I have to network. I have to get my name out there. And I just think the intentionality behind that, it seems a little desperate. It seems a little bit like I need a sale this month. I need to close a deal.
I have to make my quota.
I need to make my quota. And I think when I'm on the other side of that handshake, you can kind of sense it, that person feels...
because the energy is different.
It's a little different, And also, we could get talking about energy and take us down a whole different path. Another show. Another day, another show. But in any case, I think that we would all agree that when you meet somebody, if they've got that kind of energy coming from them, it's a little bit of a desperation, it's a little bit frantic, and you don't feel like they're all that interested in you. So don't be that person. I think when you show up to go to a networking event, you know, have a purpose in mind. A purpose doesn't mean I'm going to get a job by Friday, you know. A purpose is really your guiding light. It's kind of your overarching reason for showing up. Maybe it's just to feel better or to get you through the day or to connect with another person. You know, there are very intangible things that come from relationships. I mean, sometimes getting a hug, sometimes, you know, getting a laugh, sometimes getting whatever it is that you need. But knowing yourself, what you stand for, what is your intention? I think Stephen Covey has that quote, begin with the end in mind.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people just show up. Are you there for the free bagels, or are you there to really engage with people? You know, you need some kind of purpose in your mind just to get you up out of bed in the morning.
Right. So, absolutely. And I also think that the whole term networking, it becomes a term that sounds very academic, and trust me out there, guys, nobody loves intellectualism more than I do. But it does. It sounds like a concept or some giant thing that you have to achieve,
right,
instead of just go talk to somebody.
Talk to people, engage,
laugh,
right,
smile.
Exactly.
Engagement.
Engagement.
Be slightly self-deprecating and laugh about that. I mean, whatever it is, but you're right. It sounds like a job,
right,
or something our parents are making us do, and we have to line it all up and be perfect and have this package. But if you don't know what your guiding light is, it's hard to have a package, and then that all gets tied up.
It is. And this is maybe a little off topic, but I don't know if you've ever done a vision board workshop.
Yes.
Have you done that?
I love those. I think they're fabulous.
I did one with Randy Light of
I know. I have heard of her, yes.
She's great, really great. I did one about a year and a half ago with her. I guess it's a little more than a year and a half. And I have to say, if you don't know what a vision board is, it's a really interesting exercise to do. I mean, if you do it with a professional that can guide you through it, that's great. Or you could probably even do it on your own. But the basic gist of it is you get either a piece of poster board, or I used a little trifold triptych kind of thing with cardboard that folds in on itself, and you just cut pictures from magazines and words that speak to you. You don't much think about, hey, I want to have this new car, or I want to have a new house. You just kind of look for things that support the life that you want to live. And I cut out all kinds of pictures of vegetables and nature and people walking. And at the time, I wasn't really eating that many vegetables.
I bet you are now.
I am. I mean, it's just funny how each of these things have come into, and that could be another show too. But
absolutely.
But there are things that are in your subconscious that you need to just give a space to, to come out. And so purpose, it doesn't have to be sales quota. It can be a little bit fuzzier than that.
Yes.
But think about what trips your trigger, what gets your blood pumping, what are you really excited or curious about, and maybe you're going to find that person, today or this week that can give you some information about it. But secondly, it's not all airy-fairy. I think having some goals, is a good idea. Like once you just get that high level, 10,000-foot view of what it is, your grand vision of what you want to do, how do you take those ideas out of, the ether and bring them down into reality? So you need to kind of take that goal and translate it into action steps. So if you do want a new job, you want a new project, or you want to make your sales quota, how can you find people? How can you find relationships that are going to support that? I'm not talking about being manipulative. I'm not talking about forcing an agenda on people, but I'm just talking about being open to getting assistance and giving assistance.
Absolutely. When you open yourself up, it is amazing how when you I've always been a fairly open person, but when we first moved here, my dad was very, very ill and subsequently died, and it was a very life-changing experience for me in many ways, and we don't really need to go into that now, but it was at that point that I really realized that you only get so many moments. And so instead of worrying about how clean my house was or how perfect the yard was, you just start. That year, I had this Christmas party, and every year it's grown, and everybody just sort of, and it really and truly is, no one ever leaves the first floor. Everybody's there. But I realized as I was looking at it last year that those are people that come from everywhere in my world. But that opening, and because I knew somebody when a couple times got tough or whatever, I was able to scooch people together.
Right.
Just say, hey, you need to call so-and-so.
Exactly.
And have this conversation, and boom, they got a job. Or you need to call whatever. And I don't sit there and say that to make it sound like I'm so narcissistic that aren't I wonderful. I say that to you because if I'd never opened those doors,
You wouldn't know.
I wouldn't know what those people did.
Exactly.
I wouldn't know what they were interested in. I wouldn't know that they had a passion for this, or they perhaps knew somebody over here, or whatever. I mean,
well, you bring up points that I could probably elaborate. I totally know what you're saying.
That is economics right there.
It is. It is definitely the relationship of economics. I mean, or the economics of relationships, excuse me. Before the show started, we were talking about one of the main reasons that I even got into my current line of work.
I'd like you to share that if you're comfortable doing that.
Sure, I absolutely am. My youngest sister, Julie, who is one of my favorite people in the world, almost exactly 3 years ago, fell unconscious, and it was quite sudden. You know, she was very fit, very health conscious. You know, just really had no idea why that would happen. She was 37 at the time. And she ended up being in a coma for a month and being hospitalized for 6 months. Mm-hmm. So I was here in Valparaiso, and she was in a suburb of Detroit. My parents were in Cincinnati, and my other sister, Karen, was in Detroit. So we all basically converged on Detroit, not knowing how on earth
you were going to manage all
we were going to manage this, right? And I had lived in a suburb of Detroit years ago, but I didn't know where these people were today necessarily. I didn't have that type of relationship. I didn't know who my sister was friendly with or who needed to have this information.
Right.
And it was social networking that allowed me to reach out and inform people, but also provide a space online where they could share resources, ideas.
Absolutely.
We got recommendations for neurosurgeons. We got housing. We got plenty of lasagna that people hooked us up with. We got prayers. We got hugs. We got basically everything that we needed, and we didn't have to ask. We didn't even have to ask. We
it just manifests.
Right. And my mom and dad have always been big givers in the community. I mean, I am too to some extent, but that's really the key way I would describe them is, you know, volunteers, givers, doers.
Right.
And they were very humbled to be on the receiving end of so much.
It is.
So much, you know, just heartfelt generosity. But I'll tell you what, it was one of the most spiritual times I've ever been through because it's showing you that your network can literally save your life.
People do things for you that you just kind of stand and you're like,
wow, every day
I remember
a
neighbor coming across the yard to me and saying, I know you don't know me, you just moved in here, but I know how sick your dad is, and if you don't want to take the kids, any day you don't want to have to take the kids, say the word.
Yeah.
There are people taking care of my kids. They were bringing us food. I mean, they didn't know. I've been in the house 2 weeks, you know, and all out of nowhere are all these people coming into me. That shows just how absolutely amazing community can be.
It can. And again, the thing is not to have it completely online, but ideally it's a fluid membrane or permeable membrane where, you know, it's sometimes online where that's the most beneficial way.
Right.
And then when it needs to be in person, you can have it in person.
Mm-hmm.
And I
find it comforting at 2:30 in the morning when I sign onto Facebook and down in the corner I can see pictures.
You see me.
Right. Of people, and I think,
they have insomnia too.
They have insomnia tonight too, and somehow I don't really need to talk to any of you.
I'm just glad to know I'm not
But
alone.
I'm just like, wow, okay, so I'm not some weirdo who has trouble sleeping.
Right.
Because my mind is going too fast.
Exactly.
It's a weird thing, I will admit, but
I'll admit it.
a little bit comforting to know that.
It is. And, you know, sometimes when we'd hit a rough patch or there was a surprise surgery or decision that needed to be made, and, you know, there wasn't really time to call people or consult, but we would just put a little blog post out there on, I got to say, if you have somebody that you're caring for, carepages.com, or I think, is it LifeBridges or CareBridges, that's it, .com is another great, great website that you can kind of not make an official blog that's public everywhere, but to the network that you need to know.
Right.
But anyway, so goals can be a lot of different things, you know, depending on your life circumstance. But sometimes it is just literally, how am I going to get through this situation that's transpired in my life, didn't necessarily plan for it, or how am I going to get a new job? So having some set goals, and they could be very different depending on the type of event that you're going to or social network you're participating in. But think about why you are either going to an event, or think about why you are logging onto Facebook at that time. Instead of just bouncing around, you know, which might be fun sometimes.
Right.
If you really need information, have that intention, and it's amazing what you can do. So I'd say the next thing, we've got purpose so far, we've got goals. The next one I want to say is plan. How are you going to get from A to B? I like sailing. I haven't sailed in quite a long time. God bless you.
Thank you. Sorry, guys.
Sailing, if you've ever done it, you don't just usually go from A to B.
No.
You do something called tacking, and it's like you're kind of going it looks very, very crazy, but you're going, left and you're going right, and you keep switching off. But it might not look like that person knows where they're going, but if you've got to cross Lake Michigan, you have to set your compass. So, set your compass, but be really open to how you get there, Sometimes I see people that are trying to network, and they're doing it very haphazardly. They just, hey, Thursday's my networking day, or Friday at 9 a.m. is my networking coffee time, and that's not a bad thing. I think it's great to have discipline, but I read this somewhere, heard it on a podcast, and this gentleman said, have networking be the dye in the fabric and not the patch. And I thought that was so great.
I really like that. When you shared that with me, I really like that because I think it's a good visual on what it should be. It isn't just this thing you stick on like a Post-it note.
Right. I'm now networking, now I'm not.
Right.
Right. If in being the dye in the fabric and not the patch means that it's not a Band-Aid that you apply because, oh, wow, all of a sudden I need a job, and, wow, or all of a sudden I need a sale, better do some networking,
right.
No, it's being open to quality relationships and engagements, throughout your entire life and throughout your entire day, week, everything. So kind of building on that is make sure that you're not a reactive networker, waiting until your loved one is in the hospital or waiting until you lose the job.
Right. I think that's a really good concept to think about.
Yeah.
Why are you reacting instead of engaging?
Exactly. I mean, sometimes life hits you between the eyes and you need to, your adrenal glands kick in. You need to do something. So that's good. I'm not against that. But if you're a networker that networks like crazy in times of need and then you don't talk to your network for 3 years until you need another job, are you really being a giver?
It's like tending your garden.
It is.
If you plant your vegetables.
I saw those tomatoes you posted on Facebook.
Yeah, they were pretty good. I'm very excited about those. We haven't done
good.
Tomatoes since we left the city, which I know sounds really weird because we had, a postage stamp yard in the city and had all these vegetables. But
I was jealous the whole
night.
Yeah,
it was actually pretty good. But if I put those in the ground and I never went out there again, I'm not going to have tomatoes.
Right, exactly. So, the seeds are great. It's, definitely necessary to start with seeds. And, maybe you get some tomatoes, but if you just walk away, you pick what you need and you don't tend to it any further, or we have a drought, you don't water it, you're not going to get a whole lot of tomatoes for the rest of the season. So, yeah, don't be just a taker. Make sure that you're giving, to your point, Tracy. I don't think that's narcissistic at all, to be somebody that thrives on connections, on connecting others. Because when you are able to, help people and you see value in the possible relationship, you become known in your network as a network hub. And that's a great power position to be in as a networker. People start to seek you out as somebody they want to connect to, not necessarily for your direct information, but just for all the possibilities that you present.
Exactly.
I'm going to just quote some numbers here for 1 second. This is weird maybe, but on LinkedIn particularly, I think that's an interesting website because it lets you go 3 levels of relationships deep.
Yes.
If you've ever heard the movie or heard about the idea 6 degrees of separation. LinkedIn doesn't go quite that far, but it gives you 3 degrees of separation. So if somebody wants to connect to me, they would actually be able to not only connect potentially to my 905 first-level network members, but also my second-level LinkedIn network, which I'm not trying to brag, but just to show you the exponential way that this works. My 905 connections on LinkedIn are connected to 189,100 people.
Which is just mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing, but it gets weirder. The third level, so the people that are friends of friends, right?
Right.
That would be 6,490,206. And that's current as of yesterday. I think it was updated.
6 million people.
6.49 million.
So you're almost at 6.5 million people through one profile on LinkedIn.
Right. And if you add up all of those levels, that is what we refer to as our LinkedIn network. So it's the sum total of your first level relationships, second and third. That comes to a grand total of 6,680,200 people. So I cannot be pen pals with that many people,
No.
nor would I want to. But if I needed a specialty consultant or what have you, or if I was even looking for a new doctor, there aren't a lot of medical professionals on there, but anything I was looking for, you bet, I would look within my network first rather than just strictly Google.
Absolutely. It's a deep bench, as
It
they
is.
say in sports.
It's
really a deep bench.
It really is, because when you Google, that tells you that, hey, maybe you've got a savvy marketer on the other end. They know how to rank with their pages. They know how to increase their search engine optimization or SEO. But when they show up in your network, you're able to see, hey, Tracy and I have 90 people that we know in common. And, or, Joe Schmo that I'm considering as a new CPA. These are the people that we know in common, and these are people that have written recommendations for him and I or her, and I could check and see what they've had to say. So I think if you're a job search candidate, a lot of people have the old paradigm in mind where, I get the interview, I make it to the interview, and if that all goes well, they call my references. I got news for you. That's been flipped.
Not no mo.
People check your references pretty much right up front. So if you're not in the network or you don't have those recommendations up front, you may never even make it to the first interview. Anyway, really good idea to build that network first before it gets to that. And
I'm going to take a quick moment here and remind everybody that you're listening to WVLP LP 98.3 Valparaiso, Indiana. You're listening to Troutline, and my name is Tracy Trout, and I'm here speaking with Kathy Sipple.
Well, thanks again, Tracy, for having me. I greatly enjoy what I do and sharing little pieces of...
There's one connection I want to make here about this relationship economics, and I hate to always be what I refer to as the victim of my profession. But I have a certification in being a Bridges Out of Poverty trainer. One of the key sort of pieces of this Bridges Out of Poverty training is a piece where they talk about resources. And one of the things that I have learned about people in poverty is that they have to think about things that I don't ever have to think about and have never had to think about, first of all. But when I look at all this relationship economics that we're talking to, that is the one thing they're lacking. There is no economics in the relationship because they don't have the time or the resources, again, to make those connections.
I've got a really cool story for you on this.
So I as I was sitting here thinking about all this talking we're doing, and one of my goals is always to sort of altruistically make the world a better place, sort of level the playing field. I thought about that and I was like, wow. I know some people that I work with right now. That's one of the things I'm trying to build with them in a group process setting is who do you know that can help you find that house? Who do you know that can help you get that job? And get them thinking, who do I know?
That's exactly right.
And they lack that ability to build those kinds of relationships. They have those relationships.
But they don't see it.
But those relationships are built on, I have nobody here, we're both working shift work, and I'm going to take their kids, they're going to take my kids, and I'm not devaluing that, but those are not the relationships that are going to help them sort of get out of where they are, I guess, is a lack of a better explanation.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up, some people that maybe are, obviously are a lot more extreme set of circumstances than you or me, but I had the privilege of meeting a woman a couple months back at a screening of a movie documentary. It was called Twittermentary. It was a documentary that a Chinese filmmaker had made about a road trip from New York to L.A.
Wow.
And it was all about Twitter people that she encountered along the way. They didn't really have it scripted. They made a few, relationship connections ahead of time. Other than that, they just had a bus and they just met people and asked, like in Chicago, who should we meet in Chicago?
Right.
And they met up with this woman who I had the pleasure of meeting. She actually spoke at the screening. She got housing because of Twitter. She did not have a home. She slept in a grassy field in Chicago outdoors for 3 years. She had some, addiction issues, some mental health issues. She had children that didn't live with her because she had no home. But she kept hearing with people picking up magazines at business newsstands and things like that, or just, random commuters passing by, Twitter. And she thought, what the heck is Twitter?
Right.
So she went to the library, got on free internet, taught herself Twitter, and she became an advocate for other homeless people. Even though she herself was homeless, she began to help people and facilitate connections and saying, hey, these people have better soup kitchens,
wow.
Get here, get there. I know. She was just an incredible person. She really did not have a pity party for herself, but she was able. And she said in her darkest nights when she was scared, out in the field and heard noises, she said, I didn't have anybody there with me, but I had a cell phone, and it wasn't a smartphone, but she just could type in a simple text on Twitter and say, I'm scared, I hear noises.
Right.
And she had people respond, Wow. It was just incredible. But anyway, she, was able to break the cycle of homelessness. She totally credits Twitter, and now she's helping other people break the cycle.
See, that, and there again, the economics of relationships.
Yes, it is. And so she could have said, well, who am I? Who do I know? But she was willing to be willing. She took that first step and said, let me educate myself. What do I have? Let me start where I am. I have access to a library, therefore I have access to the internet. And so she's just a very interesting lady, and, I credit her for going forth and helping others.
That's amazing.
So, but to your point, that is actually a good segue into the next thing that I wrote down, which is wrong people, networking with the wrong people.
Right.
And not that everybody doesn't have a place at the table, and, everybody isn't interesting in one way or another. But when you've got a particular need or goal, the first person you meet at a networking event might not be that person that you need to meet. I think a lot of us might be shy, or maybe we're lazy, or maybe we just don't know how to do it in a different way. But when you have that purpose clear in your mind, and sometimes, with the internet, with social media, you can actually do a little bit of advanced homework. So if you ever go to an Eventbrite event, sometimes people will RSVP right online, or Facebook. A lot of times people indicate that they're going to be attending. If you see somebody that you think looks interesting, why not click on their profile or Google them? Find out.
And see who they are, what they're up to.
They are. I'm not suggesting being a stalker, but most events have, name tags up at the front. Make friends with the person that's the registration, official, and say, hey, I'd really like to meet Tracy when she comes in. Could you point her out, or could you help, make an introduction? So if you have maybe 3 to 5 people in mind that you'd like to meet during an event, you're going to go there with a lot higher degree of intention than my goal is to get the free bagel, listen to a speaker, and then get the heck out of there as soon as possible. Compare and contrast that with show up early, having done your advanced homework, be excited and engaged.
Energy.
And how flattered would you feel if when you walked into an event, somebody said, "Aren't you Tracy Trout?
Right.
I've been wanting to meet you. I read your LinkedIn profile, and I thought it was incredible, the work that you're doing with nonprofits.
Right.
Wow."
And I would have said something like, I think my reaction would be like, wow, thanks. I wouldn't have been expecting that.
Well, you wouldn't. But, I find that when I go and meet with a new client, when I do very minimal research, I can get a wealth of information because people are putting it out there. And so if you're not, Googling and doing a little advanced work, give it a try. And I almost guarantee you're going to meet, not that there are right people and wrong people, but for your particular moment in time and what you need to accomplish, there are people that can better facilitate that.
Absolutely.
So it's not about the value.
And that goes back to your earlier point of what's your guiding light?
Right.
What's your purpose? And we're not sitting there that you're in your head tagging people saying, oh, valuable, not valuable, valuable, not valuable. You're looking, if there is a purpose there, that's what you have to stay focused on.
Right. And your purpose could be, I want to learn how to do yoga better, or I want to learn more about permaculture, or whatever it might be. So it's not is if a person of value means they will do business with me. You know, I could be looking for a friend. I could be looking for somebody that has information on a common interest.
Right.
You know, I'm
Join
not
a
at all.
club.
Yeah, I'm not at all suggesting that value equals dollar value and you know, or exact outcome. But I'll tell you what. Again, going back to being a connector and being at the center of a hub, you will have value just by cultivating your own network and doing a good job of connecting others. We were talking about Keith Ferrazzi before the show started. But his whole thing is never eat alone. That was one of his books.
I read that. That's what I got when he started on his book. I read his book, Never Eat Alone. Because, you know, being of the psychology mindset, you know, we're supposed to teach people that there is an okay space to be alone in and we don't need to be whatever. And then I pick up this book and I was like, what? Are you kidding me?
I do actually sometimes like to eat alone.
Absolutely.
But his point is a good one.
His point is a good one.
Yeah, you've got a lot of opportunities to connect, and just why not be a little bit more intentional, a little bit more strategic.
Right.
And when you do
the work. But again, that's something I saw on Twitter. Somebody Twittered something about this book and about him, and then I saw the title, so then I got on the computer, I looked it up on Amazon, I looked it up on the internet, and there it was, and I thought, I'm going to read this book.
I can't tell you how many things have come into my awareness first because of Twitter. They're so quick, and there's so many that sometimes you don't remember, but if I think about it, I'm pretty sure that, you know, Twitter was behind a lot of it. And once you find people that are very knowledgeable about different aspects or interests, you can use things like Twitter List, join groups on LinkedIn. Clout is one that kind of lets you see who has kind of, social clout within an area, a geographic area, or an area of interest for you.
So that's a site that's just called Clout?
Clout.com. You can find out what your own social media clout is.
I told you we would be learning things.
Yes. It is Clout with a K, by the way, so it's Klout. And there are others as well. I know that you know, but in any case, once you start finding people that are of interest, when you drill down and see who they're connected to, oftentimes you can just, you know, take it further down the rabbit hole and you get into it more and more.
Right.
And again, I'm just going to say, you know, when you're meeting people, what kind of person are you? Are you a giver? You know, God bless Mother Teresa, she's a giver.
Yes, yes.
We can't all just be givers, but also don't just always be a taker. Be an investor. If you invest in other people, then I think that comes around to help you out in the long run. And, you know, that's just a different energy of bringing to it. So sometimes you're going to be a taker, sometimes you're going to be a giver, but if it's always about investing in the relationships, you're going to come out ahead. So just a couple of final points, because I know we're coming up at the top of the hour.
Yeah, we are, but we still got a few minutes,
all right.
So let's keep
I'll
going.
Keep going. I'm chatty Cathy. But
excuse the pun, right?
Yeah, exactly. How did my parents know when they named me? But you know, sometimes people think that networking doesn't help or doesn't work because they're not getting the help that they need. And I push back sometimes and ask people, have you asked for what you need? Have you clearly defined yourself?
Kelly, that is such an important point. I want you to say that again.
I will say it again. You need to define yourself. You need to look inward and figure out what you need so that you can ask for it and put it forth in a way that helps people understand what it is that they can do for you. You may have, you know, Aunt Mabel that thinks you're the best thing since sliced cheese, but she just knows you're in IT. She doesn't really know what's a good lead for you.
Right.
You know, but
it's like my mother says about my husband. He does something with computers at the CME.
And you know what? In pre-LinkedIn, pre-Facebook, I was probably as guilty as anybody of describing my relatives or friends in the same way. Because if we know somebody from church or the soccer field or, you know, socially, we don't know every aspect of their career. But now we've got the opportunity to engage with somebody through one social platform, and we can pretty seamlessly transport over to another area. So make sure when they get there that they're really clear on what it is that they can do to help. You know, if you're looking for a job, if you're looking for an introduction, why not buy that person a cup of coffee? You know, give people some ammunition, help them understand how to describe you, help them, you know, give them the tools. You know, I've had job seekers ask for help, and people push a piece of paper, resume, into my hand number one, I'm not great with paper. If you
No.
could see my desk and paper, it gets stacked up very quickly.
I won't know where it is in 5 minutes.
I won't either. But if you link to me on LinkedIn,
right,
and I can just forward your profile to somebody in my network, or it becomes visible to my 6.5 million people in my network,
right,
that's probably the best way I can help you, much
right.
more than giving me one piece of paper.
That piece of paper in your hand isn't going to be seen by 6.5 million people.
No, and I can't remember where it is. I don't have it when I'm out and about and finally meet that right person.
Exactly.
So just think about the tools that are at your disposal and make it as easy on your network to connect with you and help you connect. So, you can find people and profile people that you want to meet. There are social networking tools like LinkedIn is a good one for job. Plaxo is another one. Spoke. ZoomInfo.com, I think, gives like board of directors and all kinds of different things. So you really need to be prepared with background information and do a little bit of the work. And can I end with a poem?
Absolutely, you can. But before you do that, because I really wanted to close with that, let's just talk quickly about how people can get a hold of you.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea.
And
tell people what I need.
Yeah, exactly. Tell people what you need. Good. And also, if you're teaching anything right now, if you're going to be teaching anything right now, I really think that this would be beneficial to people, out in the area. Sorry to all my Arizona friends. You want to fly in, you can stay at our house and go take a class with Kathy. But
actually, Tracy, I couldn't have asked for a better segue because I forgot to ask you about this ahead of time.
Yeah.
But I am going to be teaching a LinkedIn class in the very near future. It begins on Tuesday, August 2nd. Goes through August 23rd. It's Tuesdays, 2 to 3 Central Time. And the good news is, even the people in Arizona, you can attend because it's a webinar.
I forgot.
It's a webinar.
Oh, man, you guys, I'm so dumb. Sorry. See, this is why we need Kathy here. I totally forgot you do those webinars.
I love doing the in-person classes, but the webinar has really extended my reach way beyond just local. So what it is it's 4 one-hour sessions that goes, for 1 hour each week. The first week we just look at how do you create a power profile on LinkedIn. Again, being intentional. Am I describing myself in the optimal way with the best keywords and making sure all that's good? Second one is how do I build my network? Doing some thought process, but also being strategic about how to go through and build. In the third week, we're really all about intention. Once you build that network, what are you going to do with it?
Right. And where are you going to go?
Right. What are the appointment setting phrases that you can use? What are the steps that you can actually take? And then the fourth one is pretty important. It's how to make it sustainable, how to make it work for you.
Right.
How to build a schedule, not assuming you have more than 20 minutes a day.
Right.
To do
how to do that.
All
and
different days.
You can take this whether you're currently using LinkedIn, whether you're a novice, whatever.
Exactly.
All right, so tell them how to get a hold of you.
Well, I create an event on Eventbrite, so it's B like boy, IT like Tom, .ly. bit.ly is a link shortening service that I like to use. And it's /Troutline. A little nod to Tracy's show. So anybody who goes to bit.ly /Troutline will come directly to this event. And for Tracy's listeners, I'm going to give you a special discount of 20%. If you enter the discount code Troutline, that's TRAUTLINE, you'll get a 20% discount. So please, if you're interested, go ahead and check that out. You can find me anywhere. If you just Google me.
Just Google Kathy. Kathy, we're going to sign off here, but we're going to close with Kathy's poem. Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great week. Kathy, thank you for being here. I hope you will come back so we can expound on some of these other things again. And I want everybody out there signing up for Kathy's class.
Thank you, Tracy. Thanks for the invite, too.
You're welcome.
We've talked this last little bit about business networking, but I'm going to end it with a little bit of spiritual. This is a poem by the German poet Rilke, and it's called Widening Circles. This is how I see that social media has added to my life and enriched it. But it's called Widening Circles. I live my life in widening circles that reach out across the world. I may not complete the last one, but I give myself to it. I circle around God, around that primordial tower I've been circling for thousands of years. And still I don't know, am I a falcon, a storm, or a great song? I think we're everything. We're all of those.
Amen.
Here's to finding out. And thanks again, Tracy.
Thanks again. Take care, everybody. See you next week.